Alright, let's see how much damage we do. Blasting. Let's go, yo, let's go, dude. Surely deathless, right? I've done so many Xesht last league on like trash builds that wait, how much HP does he have, dude? Hoa? Any Hoa? No, we got trash. Hey, what's up YouTube? Hope you enjoyed the video of the Xesht 1 kill. All damage feels insane, and I'm having a blast with the lightning crit crossbow Amazon build. So in this video, I will not be going through every single thing. I've covered most of it in my previous video, and I've upgraded my gear since then. So what I'll be talking about is some tips and tricks and some things I saw when trying to play around with the POBs, as well as how I went about designing the new iteration of my build to increase my EHP, as well as some of the problems that I faced when approaching the creation of this build. So first and foremost, I want to talk about the changes, and that is going to be path of building now allows you to import your characters. So you just need to authenticate, and now I'm able to import my character, and that's great. With a few exceptions though. So currently when you import fractured items, POB does not bring in the fractured affix. So for my crossbow, I had a fractured accuracy over here, so it did not bring in the fractured accuracy, so I had to manually update that, but that's fine. So just keep in mind that if you update your character and if you have fractured modifiers, that may or may not come through, so just keep that in mind. Secondly, it's going to be some aspects of the build are not calced in the calculations with the current POB. First and foremost is going to be lightning rod is one example. You can see that it has 30% chance for lightning damage with hits to be lucky. So this is not calced in, but I've done some napkin math, and that number comes up to be about 3.5% more damage, and also a bit surprised why it turned out to be so low. And I figured out why that's the case, and that's because for our builds in PoE 2, a lot of the damage types that we approach is going to be getting physical damage and then converting. Whereas historically in PoE 1, that's where we'll be getting flat lightning damage, and flat lightning damage has huge roll ranges, right? You can see like 1 to 96 or something like that, right? It's a huge range, the minimum and the maximum, and that's where lucky plays a more important role. A little bit of the background of the lucky damage, you can check the PoE wikis, but it's essentially 16% of the maximum minus the minimum, and if the difference between the damage ranges is not as much, you get much less out of lucky, and you can see currently the range of damage is between 23,000 to 47,000 here, and 16% of that difference is not as much as if you would with traditional lightning damage in PoE 1. And once again, this is not 100% chance to be lucky like the previous lightning rod where you do non-crits, it's going to be 100% chance to be lucky. This is only 30% chance, so the lucky chance increases the damage by about 11.5%, and then 30% of that just brings it down to just under 4%. And that's not calced in, just keep in mind. So these nodes are not as strong as you think they are, so just keep in mind, like the lightning rod node is just as strong as this increased damage node in perspective. But then again, it does increase the average damage up, so that is just still okay to take. Secondly, it's going to be emergency reload for the build. Currently, even with the latest POB updates, emergency reload does not increase the damage. So just keep in mind, this is highly dependent on how short the fight is. If the fight is very short, emergency reload is going to be a huge percentage of your damage. But if it's going to be a long drawn out fight, it's going to contribute less and less, just because the cooldown of this skill is very long. You can see that it's a 45-second cooldown before any cooldown reductions are applied. So that's what I want to talk about. Secondly, it's going to be the introduction of the EHP to my build. And I've introduced 731 ES to the build, and that's just increasing the max hit. Previously, I had only about 250 ES, so I was struggling to decide how I'm going to increase my ES pool. And the solution I come up with is not to go for an evasion ES chest, but just to go for a pure evasion chest, rely on spectral ward to give me some ES through this. And on top of that, get a pure ES boots. Definitely this ES boots, if you're willing to pay a lot more divines, this can go up to 300 ES, and it's going to give you a lot more energy shield. But for me right now, I have 184 energy shield on my boots, along with spectral ward with a pure evasion chest, and then paired it up with 5 sapphire jewels with maximum energy shield. When you have 100 energy shield with no increases, you have 100 energy shield. And every 20% energy shield, maximum energy shield increase on top of that is just a more multiplier to your energy shield, and that's insane. So if you get 5 jewels of 20%, essentially that will double your flat energy shield that you're getting on your gear. And that's one way that I went about approaching scaling my energy shield and being able to bring that number up to 731, along with these various 12% over here, shoring up that energy shield a little bit more. So that's how I went about solving the EHP for the build in terms of the max hit. And mitigation wise, that's where we'll be relying a lot on tailwind, gear, your passives to be able to increase your evasion rating. Currently POB says I have an 89% chance to evade, and I think that is correct because what in-game PoE2 doesn't factor in, so this is before the tailwind, right? I think with tailwind this brings it up to about something like 84%, and blind is going to be a more multiplier on that chance to evade, and that is what is happening here. If you want to get hit a lot less, if you have a lot less evasion as compared to my build, maybe you're not using Black Insignia, one good option is going for Blinding Flash to be able to increase your EHP in terms of chance to get hit. So this is going to be one option here. Next is going to be getting enough attributes, and that's something that I face all the way from the start of the creation of this build. So we're spread very thin with regards to all the different attributes on this build. Interestingly enough, something I didn't expect. When I was POBing, I was seeing the attribute requirements, but I kind of shrugged it off, saying, okay, my gear will kind of fix it. But it turned out to be a lot more pressure than I would have expected. And that's because your crossbow needs a certain amount of strength. A lower tier crossbow needs like 90 something, but I'm currently using a flexed crossbow. It needs 116 strength, so that's what you need to cater for, number one. Number two is that you'll need a lot of intelligence for the build, and you don't get a lot of those. So intelligence, a lot of it's going to be coming from my gear, and ideally from your passives as well if you're lacking them. So for me, I got intelligence on my amulet, I got int implicit with all attributes, and another of my ring also gave me intelligence. And the third one is going to be dexterity. A lot of pressure on that as well, because when you're using high tier evasion chests, you're going to need a lot of evasion rating to be able to wear them. And on top of that, your Stormcaller arrow needs 191 dexterity at a level 19 to be able to use. You can see my skill gems over here. Very high requirements for attributes. At the start, I remember I was using only like a level 14 galvanic for the most part of my mapping until I hit red maps. Then I had managed to upgrade my gear and be able to increase my galvanic shards level from like 14 to 19. That's just one example, right? Because we just have not enough attributes to be able to equip all of these things to the max level. And same for our method of increasing our speed in maps, and that's having 133 intelligence on weapon swap. So you can see in my earlier POBs, we're actually speccing a lot more into the intelligence for the weapon swap too. But as you get intelligence on your gear, you're able to take those out and spec those into other things that could benefit your build a little bit more. So that's just something to keep in mind. Something that's also very interesting is that the quality for almost all your gems matter quite a lot. So the first two things I want to increase is going to be the number of bolts, which increases the damage uptime. So that's going to be Galvanic and Shock Burst. The Herald of Thunder is insane with quality to be able to increase your number of strikes from 2 to 4. And then once you hit level 16 or 15 Herald of Thunder, you get 1 additional hit over here. So currently I have a total of 5 hits on killing a shocked enemy. For your Blanket Emergency Reload, this just increases the cooldown recovery, so you have better uptime on those. Voltaic Mark is very, very good, increasing mark effect on the enemy, which in turn increases the amount of shock that currently is applied to the enemy. And currently with my build, I'm able to shock for 75%, so that's 75% more damage on the enemy. So that's really good. Something to keep in mind, one thing that I haven't mentioned earlier is that Penetrate from the Ascendancy node, it's currently factored in, so that's completely fine. Let me remove that. In the latest update that has fixed it. And Pinpoint Accuracy also is not calc-ed in. So Pinpoint Critical that you see over here increases the critical strike chance, critical hit chance by 60% or more critical hit chance. You can see that this completely does not affect the full DPS calcs. You can see that if I take that out, I have 50% chance to crit, but with this gem, it increases that to 80% chance to crit, which is really, really good. And yeah, so another thing is that fresh clip works within POB. You can see that fresh clip is insane, gives me 110% more damage, so more than 2 times damage. But in game, this is not visible. So you can see shock burst rounds here, 23,000, and I shoot and reload. This does not increase my damage. Previously, in the first patch on 0.1, this damage increased, and I've went about to do my own testing to see if it actually works, even if the tooltip doesn't increase, and I've confirmed that fresh clip increases your damage. So I went about to put it back into my build after I tested it out. I went into a tier 5 map Bloomingfield boss, and then I put in a level 11 shock burst rounds with fresh clip, and then I shot 8 times in a row, and I compared the damage. So I have it over here, so you can see that my damage on the first hits, and I counted for 7 times I unloaded my clip fully, and these are the damage numbers that I recorded. You can see that this is the differential in the damage between each. This is without fresh clip, this is with fresh clip, and the damage increase is a lot less when doing it without fresh clip. And you can see that the difference in the damage, it is fairly comparable. Like if you count in reload time and all, like it could be 72% more damage. I was using it's a level 11 shock burst, so the clip size was a lot less, so the reload time is going to be a lot more frequent. So you can see that the damage more multiplier with and without fresh clip was 72% more damage. So pretty cool, interesting thing that I was able to figure out. That fresh clip currently is bugged from the tooltip in game, but it actually works in practice. And lastly, it's going to be movements penalty on the tree. So currently I hit level 93, and something I realized after watching all the kind of like the meta builds playing out is that spears and bows benefit from row amount, right? And row amount, the benefit is that you do not have movement speed penalty when shooting. I don't know what the percentage is. I think it's like 15%, 85% movement speed penalty when you're shooting or something like that. And Roa completely, and riding a Roa with 60 spirit completely mitigates that movement speed penalty. But one thing introduced this league in the passive tree is these nodes, freedom of movement as well as unhindered, that allows us to be able to reduce the movement speed penalty while you're shooting and using WASD, right? So I decided to spec into this, and my god, did it feel so good when I spec'd into this. So I went a step further to be able to add in my galvanic shards after I increased my damage for quite a bit, and using and I dropped primal armaments, I think, and then I went for mobility. So this is a gem that allows you to have less movement speed penalty when using supported skills, and it feels so good. So 25% alongside 10%, 35, plus another 20 from this 8% and 12%, giving me 55% less movement speed penalty. And that's insane, which means that if there was an 85% movement speed penalty, we only get reduced by 30%. And we're getting very close to Roa levels of speed. And you can see that when I'm shooting, I don't really slow down by that much. You can see that as I'm shooting, it's not as much as if you would without the mobility gems. Without those passives, you slow down a lot more. So that's the updates that I have on my build, and I've been having a blast so far. Like you saw the Xesht kills, and I killed some map bosses with fresh clip, and it feels like I'm doing like about 1 million DPS. Although the POB numbers do say 1.7, 1.8 mil, that's with like full fresh clip RAM. It doesn't count in a couple of things, but yeah, I mean that's the rough damage. I think it's going to be good enough, I would say, to be able to progress and kill those T4 bosses if you're going for those. And that's something that's going to be next on my list to be able to do. In terms of upgrades and what I plan to do in the future, one of the things that I'm planning to buy is going to be this extremely expensive item, and that's going to be the Rite of Passage. You can see that there is some form of possession. I think it's really good. I'm going for the one that says Wolf. There's a few different ones in the game. So Wolf gives 15 MS, 15 skill speed, and you know, it's just insane. It's gonna be like possession, and there's very little opportunity cost because this sits in your charm slots. And if it sits in your charm slots and it gives rarity, I mean, I'm probably gonna use it anyway. So that's something that I'm looking for. And in terms of my gear upgrades, I plan to approach it by possibly going Ingenuity with 2 really good rings in the future, and then a Crossbow upgrade as maybe another one. If I do want to increase my EHP, something I could opt for in the future, if I have more than enough evasion, if I get evasion on my rings, for example, with Ingenuity, I could potentially switch this to an evasion ES chest to increase my EHP a lot more. So the reason why I have 731 evasion at ES is because I want to make as best use of Ghost Dance as I can, because you can see that it mitigates 7% of your evasion, and currently more than 17,000 evasion gives me more than 700 ES, and which means that every time I get hit I gain back 700 ES, which improves the tankability of the build by that much. So that's what I wanted to share. Thanks so much for watching. If you like the video, feel free to like, share and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye. Oh, this is an alley week map.